As we are starting off in week 2 of the federal election campaign, all parties are promising financial relief for Canada's middle class.
We're acting by putting more money in Canadians' pockets through a middle-class tax cut that
Canada First Conservatives will cut income taxes by 15% for the average worker or $2,000 for the average couple.
Let's target families that actually need relief, middle-class families, lower-income families.
Okay, but who exactly is Canada's middle class? StatsCan says it's people who earn between $53,000 to $107,000 per year. For a closer look at this demographic, what it means in 2025, we're joined from Montreal by Moshe Lander, Senior Lecturer of Economics at Concordia University. Good morning.
Good morning.
This is a fascinating conversation. I'm so glad we're having it. Not everybody agrees on what the criteria for being middle class should be. Some experts focus on annual income. Others compare to standard of living, including being able to afford basic necessities. So what does being middle class in Canada actually mean today?
It's really subjective, and that's exactly why there's no common definition. The one that I use is if you take the median income, you line up everybody from lowest to highest. If you take that median income and add 50% and subtract 50%, then anybody that falls in that range is, let's say, middle income. The graphic that you showed around 53 to 107,000 looks about right to me. Maybe I might shift it down a little bit. But again, that's my numbers. Anybody else is going to say maybe the middle income is anybody who earns more than me is high income, and anybody who earns less than me is low income.
Yeah, perception is a big part of this conversation. And here's something that I found fascinating. About 4 in 10 Canadians actually meet the Stats Canada definition of middle class, 4 in 10. But that is very different from what people say when you ask what Canadians believe they're the class that they're part of. A Polaris study found that 79% of Canadians say that they're middle class. That includes Canadians who make far less or those who make more than StatsCan's income threshold, which is 53 or 107 at the top end. So what's in this perception gap?
I think part of it is just when you're asked the question, where do you fit in? Are you low income, middle income, or high income? I think people might be embarrassed to say that they're high income. I guess when you go beyond a certain income threshold, it's almost impossible to say that you're not high income. But if you're not past that threshold, whatever that number is, you would just say, yeah, I'm middle income. And I don't think anybody wants to identify as low income when asked the question. And so a lot of people are just going to identify that, well, I'm not as rich as I could be, and I'm not as poor as I could be, so I guess I'm in the middle. And that's where you end up with politicians then trying to always appeal to middle income Canadians. What they're really trying to do is just say, I'm talking to all of you, and these policies should get all of you, because they really need everybody's vote if they want to form a government.
You know, we were having this conversation as a team, and middle class, you know, we're talking about definitions of middle class. And middle class used to mean, like, you know, you have a certain income, but you have a home, and there were certain sort of standard of living or status things that went with being solidly middle class. That has disappeared. Those definitions of what and standard of living has really changed. What have you seen?
Yeah, it has. But remember, too, that in the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, right, the accumulation of material things was the easiest way to indicate that you were middle income, right? So the initial need to accumulate appliances, that you would have a fridge, you would have a stove, and then it evolved to a dishwasher and a washing machine and a dryer. Then it became, how many cars did you have? If you had 2 cars, then you were seen to be middle income. But initially, remember, 2 cars was the sign of a high income family. And so what used to be seen as normal just becomes mind-numbingly normal now. And so if you don't have as many material possessions, if you're more interested in services and digital acquisitions, then it really is hard to indicate what makes you middle income. So I think these days, if people are really trying to define it, the one thing that all Canadians can get behind is, can you afford your rent or can you afford your mortgage? And above anything else, that's probably the thing that defines whether you're living a lifestyle that is comfortable.
Important conversations to have as all the leaders are aiming so much at this middle class block of voters. Moshe Lander, Senior Lecturer of Economics at Concordia University. Great to have you with us. Thank you.
Anytime.